Time. Good morning, everyone. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to our Thursday morning, December 19th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. My name is Andy Hunthausen. To my left, Commissioner Tom Rolfe.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Tom's left, Brandi Spangler will be taking care of us today. Good morning, Brandi. Greg McNally, Director of Planning and Community Development. To my right, Commissioner Candace Payne. Morning. Gentlemen, good morning. We have two Deputy County Attorneys here today, Nico Hash and Keegan Shea. Good morning. Roger Baltz, our Chief Administrative Officer. Good morning, Roger.
Good morning.
There is a sign-in sheet in the front as well as agendas. Please sign in prior to leaving today so we have a good record of who's attended our public meeting. We will start today with our consent action items. Mr. Baltz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. On consent today, we'll begin with item 2A. It's vendor claims report for the week ending December 20, 2024. Staff recommends approval of that item, and Marni Bentley is here as usual as well. And Commissioners, the second consent item for you today is item 2B, public meeting minutes for November 26 and 28, December 3 and 5, 2024. And staff recommends approval of that item as well. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Baltz. Any questions, Commissioners? I think we only have one more meeting where I'm chair, so I try to embarrass Marni Bentley at least once or twice a year and let her know how much we appreciate her hard work keeping our county checkbook, if you will. All of the vendor claims, money coming in, going out. She does an excellent job, and those records are always available for public review if interested. But Marni, just thank you. It's always on consent, so we don't get to have you up here at the microphone and ask you all kinds of questions. But anyway, thank you.
Would that be changed under the next?
Well, we can pull anything off consent that we'd like, but
Just the thought.
Anyway, thank you, Marni. All right. Any public comment on the consent action items? Any public comment? All right. With that, Commissioners, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve consent action items 2A and 2B as presented by Roger Baltz.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Moved and seconded to approve consent action items 2A and B as presented. Further discussion, Commissioners? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thanks, Marni. All right, next item on the agenda is a memorandum of understanding between Lewis and Clark County and the state of Montana. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Casey Hayes. I am the purchasing officer for Lewis and Clark County. For consideration by the Commission is the renewal of the Memorandum of Understanding between Lewis and Clark County and the State Procurement Services Division of the State of Montana's Department of Administration to update and reestablish our cooperative purchasing agreement. Cooperative purchasing occurs when procurement is conducted on behalf of more than one procurement unit, for example, state, county, city, etc. This procurement method reduces administrative burden, expedites the purchasing process, and saves the taxpayer money. When one governmental entity has conducted solicitation and negotiated a contract for goods or services, it benefits taxpayers if those goods or services can be obtained through the same contract by another governmental entity. When the state negotiates contracts, some of these agreements include provisions that allow for the use of a participating addendum. Co-op members can piggyback on these contracts through the applicable participating addenda. Because procurement, that is solicitation and contract formation, has already occurred, the county does not need to conduct its own procurement, which saves us time and money. This agreement also provides the county access to the state's requisition time schedule for vehicles. If an office or department needs to make a fleet purchase, we can coordinate with the State Procurement Services Division to be included in their biannual bids for passenger cars and light-duty trucks, as well as their annual bids for patrol vehicles. Not only does this agreement allow the county access to goods and services that the state has solicited, but it also provides access to contract portfolios from cooperatives in which the state is a member, such as the National Association of State Procurement Officers, also called NASPO. These types of contracts are called term contracts, a contract in which sources for goods or services are established for a specific period of time at a negotiated price point. Term contracts can be used with local vendors to obtain the lowest prices for goods, ranging from office and janitorial supplies to heavy equipment. Montana Code Annotated specific to county contracts allows local governments to enter into and execute cooperative purchasing agreements with the state of Montana, political subdivisions of the state or other states, and other governmental entities. Lewis and Clark County's procurement policy seeks to conform with Montana Code Annotated specific to county contracts. The allowance of the parts of these statutes require local governments to enter into an agreement in order to conduct cooperative purchasing, thus the Memorandum of Understanding before the Commission today. This Memorandum of Understanding was reviewed by the County Attorney's Office to ensure that the terms and conditions have not changed from the previous versions of this agreement. Our request today is to approve the Memorandum of Understanding, and we, staff, recommend approval.
Mr. Hayes, thank you very much. That was a well-explained item. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Hayes? Often ask for, further explanations. The public understands, those might be watching and all of that, but you did a very, very good job. In essence, we're cooperating with the state, other governmental entities, so that we can have that, as you described, and not have to have our own contracts and those kinds of things. Kind of piggyback on the state's process.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, yes. In a sense, it's contract shopping, where we know and understand, for example, that Public Works may want to use a Caterpillar product, or they may want to use a John Deere product, but they're going to go to a local vendor dealer in order to obtain that product. They can go through the cooperative purchasing contract price points and then determine, based on their needs, which one of those pieces of equipment they want to purchase. But then also, by contract shopping, so to speak, they can look at those fixed price points and say, oh, the John Deere's a little bit cheaper than the Cat, or vice versa.
Right. Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions?
I have a question.
Please.
I'm very concerned about job security for lawyers. And it seems to me that by cutting out the contract drafting of many of, I don't sense any sympathy here. Never mind.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Payne, in fact, what does happen at those high level in those co-ops, such as the National Association of State Procurement Officers or Sourcewell, which is the counties of Minnesota that have created their co-op, those contracts actually get negotiated by a stable of attorneys so that we can relieve the burden of our civil attorneys, and they won't have to go into the weeds and the mud of corporate procured contracts and such. They can focus their attention on more urgent matters relative to our county.
And I see that we have the approval of at least half of the deputy county attorneys that are, I guess both of them. So thank you very much.
There's got to be a joker in every bunch here.
Two jokers in every deck.
There you go. Anything else? All right. How about public comment on this item? Any public comment? Any public comment? All right. Hearing none. Commissioners, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the Memorandum of Understanding between Lewis and Clark County and the state of Montana as explained by Casey Hayes.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the Memorandum of Understanding as presented. Further discussion, Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I just, in my previous life, selling vehicles and doing a lot of state bids, this has been used for some time, and I think it was really helpful to counties to be able to get good deals through the state purchasing office.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, this doesn't exclude us from going out from purchasing individual vehicles, but it is very helpful when we make those fleet purchases.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else? Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is extension request for the alley abandonment of Seymer Park. Did I say that right?
Yes, Seymer Park, Block
Seymer Park.
13.
Just wanted to make sure I pronounced it properly.
Good morning, Chair,
Good morning.
Commissioners. Christal, Ness, Development Services Supervisor for the county. This morning, you have a request for a one-year extension on an alley abandonment that we approved in June of '21. I know that Mr. White has been diligently working on this project. I have a draft plat, not quite ready for prime time, so that's why I haven't loaded it up for you to look at just yet. We are combining 18 lots into 7, so he needed to make sure that each one of those lots that he created from all of this, we're going to abandon the alley, do some aggregation. We're going to end up with 7 buildable lots. He's been working with environmental health. He's got his septic permits available and all of that. So he's been really diligently working on it. Time just got away from him. I think he was too busy building his new garage. But he comes and visits with me often. So he's requested a one-year extension to get this thing finalized and come back to you folks for a final abandonment. I have Jared Lay here in the audience if you have any questions for him or if you have any questions for me. The map shows where the alley lies. Shane and his wife own all of these lots between Spring Street and Williams.
Okay, a couple of questions, just because this is just an extension. We've seen it
Yes.
before. However, those that might be watching or in the audience today may not have been part of those earlier conversations. So just for a educational and an explanation, for explanatory purposes, excuse me, I think you got a good start there. They own all of the lots. They own the
Yes.
entire piece of property. So the abandonment and its impact on the public, I think, is one of the things that we always want to consider. There's, in terms of utilities, access, those kinds of things, there's no issues, no significant issues from that perspective.
Yes,
Can you just
Chairman.
speak to that a little bit?
I can give you a really quick summary. This plat was done in the 1800s. All of the alleys and streets were platted as right-of-ways at that particular point in time. Particularly, the alleys weren't wide enough to accommodate a vehicle today. And this alley was never developed. So in order for us to abandon it, we declared it a county road. We noticed all of the abutters on both sides of Spring Street and to the north. And we received no public comment or questions about the particular abandonment. We had to make it a county road in order to be able to abandon it. We gave them 3 years to complete their abandonment and get their survey in order and back to the county commission. So we're now getting a 1-year or requesting a 1-year extension on that 3-year approval.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that explanation. Commissioners, any questions for? Please, Commissioner
Okay.
Payne.
So this developer's been working on this for 3 years. Correct.
Chairman, Commissioner Payne, yes, that's exactly right.
And I mean, of that, do they have like 90% of the work done, or do they have 10% of the work done and they're just pushing this along? So, I mean,
Chairman, Commissioner Payne, we are on the verge of a final plat. It's just when I was working with the consultant and he's like, Christal, I've got my final plat in order. And I'm like, Jared, this expired. We need to get an extension and then we will deal with the final plat.
why do we need a year?
We really don't, but that's just a standard set of time for them to get it done. I know that he has called environmental health and he's very anxious to get his septic systems put in. And he can't do it until this alley's abandoned. So I would imagine that we're probably going to see it in the next 2 months?
So we don't need a whole year.
How about 30 days? Can we do it in 30 days?
Oh, let's do 60 days.
Okay,
We
fine.
might have a winter storm or something that would,
Right?
so can we amend this request to 60 days?
We can sure talk about that. I think
Okay.
it doesn't really matter. 1 year or 60 days, doesn't really matter. It's going to be done within that time frame, and that's the
Exactly.
point. So
The issue that I see is not every developer is as prompt about meeting the rules. And we've come up with requests for extensions that have been going on for 7 years. And I think it is a bad precedent. So thank you for saying you can get it done right away. And that seems
Right.
to me a reasonable thing to do.
Chairman, Commissioner Payne, one of the things that we always look at when we're granting an extension is how diligent have they been to get it done? And as you've heard across the room from the consultant, he's been working on getting this done. He's got his septic permits, he's already got utilities installed, and he's ready to move forward.
yeah, it's great. Any questions, concerns? My only hesitation on the 60-day thing is that if something happened next week, family emergency or whatever might happen. So I would be willing to go to 6 months, and just to make sure that we don't have to come back here and do this again because some unforeseen thing happened and, oh, we should have done it. It doesn't matter if he gets it done in a week or 6 months, then it's inside that time period. So I would be willing to do that. But
That sounds reasonable.
that's why the year is nice, because it just covers all contingencies. And
Chairman, that's exactly why we usually use that
Yeah.
1-year extension unless
Right.
the developer believes they need additional time.
it is, yeah, it's been our standard. So, okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Christal? Anything that the applicant or applicant's representative would like to present? Okay. Commissioners, anything else? All right. How about public comment? Any public comment on this item? Any public comment? All right. Hearing none, is there a motion? And that motion should include the considered time frame.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to grant a 6-month extension for the alley abandonment in Seymour Park, as explained by Ms. Ness.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the extension for 6 months as presented by Ms. Ness. Anything further, commissioners? Appreciate the conversation. Looking forward to the project coming to fruition. All right, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much. All right. Next item on the agenda is board appointments, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Baltz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is item number 5 on the agenda for you to consider today. And Commissioners, this is consideration of 6 different appointments to 5 different boards or committees. So you have the backup memo I know available to you. I'll read it into the record that's been prepared by Brandi Spangler for your consideration today. These candidates all meet qualifications for consideration of the boards that are before you today. The first one is the Augusta Solid Waste Board. Brian Moody is serving a partial term that expires December 31, 2024. He wishes reappointment to a full first term that will expire December 31, 2027. There were no other applicants. Action staff recommends that the commissioners consider the applicant for the Augusta Solid Waste Board to a term that will expire December 31, 2027. And Mr. Chair, we typically take these one at a time and make our way through them, if that's agreeable to you today.
Absolutely, thank you. So the Augusta Solid Waste Board commissioners, any questions on the possible appointment here? This would be appointment for Brian Moody for a
Mr. Chair.
first full term.
Um,
Yes.
Just as a comment, I sit on that board and have for the last year. And it is a very well-functioning board. The people get along. The Jenny Chambers and her staff are close attention. And I recognize both of the people who have applied, and I hope we can keep this group working together.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Any public comment on this possible appointment? Any public comment? All right, hearing none, is there a motion, please, Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the board appointment to the Augusta Solid Waste Board of Brian Moody to be reappointed and to have Lloyd Allen.
Oh, no,
Oh, just one at a time.
right.
Okay. All right. Augusta Solid Waste. Let's just do Brian Moody then.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Moved and seconded to appoint Brian Moody to a term ending December 31st, 2027 to the Augusta Solid Waste Board. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay, we have another Augusta Solid Waste Board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. And Commissioner Payne, yes, this is also the Augusta Solid Waste Board. Michael Anderson has moved and no longer qualifies to serve on the board. Lloyd Allen applied. Action staff recommends that the Commissioners consider the applicant for the Augusta Solid Waste Board to a term that will expire December 31, 2027.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? Okay. Public comment on this item. Any public comment? Any public comment? All right, hearing none. Commissioners, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Lloyd Allen to the Augusta Solid Waste Board for a term that would expire December 31st, 2027.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the appointment of Lloyd Allen to the Augusta Solid Waste Board. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Mr. Baltz.
Commissioners, next you have the Fair Board. Wilbur Raymond is serving a partial term that expires December 31, 2024. He wishes reappointment to a full first term that will expire December 31, 2027. There were no other applicants. Action staff recommends that the Commissioners consider the applicant for the Fair Board to a term that will expire December 31, 2027.
Thank you, Mr. Baltz. Questions, Commissioner?
I'd like to comment on this board too. I sit on the
Please.
Fair Board, and again, these people seem to get along and work well together. And Wilbur Raymond has been a participating member of that board and has added a lot to it. So I
Great.
think he's
Thank
a
you.
good applicant.
Thank you. All right, how about public comment on this item? Any public comment? Any public comment? Hearing none, is there a motion, please, Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the board appointment to the Lewis and Clark Fair Board as described by Roger Baltz.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Moved and seconded to appoint Wilbur Raymond to the Fair Board as presented. Further discussion, Commissioners? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much. Mr. Baltz.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Next, you have the Investment Committee. James Penner is serving a partial term that expires December 31, 2024. He wishes reappointment to a full first term that will expire December 31, 2027. There were no other applicants. Action staff recommends that the Commissioners consider the applicant for the Investment Committee to a term that will expire December 31, 2027.
Thank you. Any questions? How about-
Mr.
Please.
Chair, just a comment. I've been serving on that investment committee, and Mr. Penner's experience in the previous life before he retired is invaluable. It's important to keep him on that board.
I would agree from my experience with Mr. Banner. It's great. How about public comment on this item? Any public comment? Any public comment? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I would move to appoint James Penner to a full first term on the Board of Investments, or Investment Committee, rather, that will expire on December 31st, 2027.
Second.
Moved and seconded to appoint James Penner to the Investment Committee as discussed. Further discussion, commissioners? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Mr. Baltz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next, Commissioners, is the Lewis and Clark County DUI Task Force. Christopher Norris is serving a partial term that expires December 31, 2024. He wishes reappointment to a full first term that will expire December 31, 2026. There were no other applicants. Action staff recommends that the Commissioners consider the applicant for the Lewis and Clark County DUI Task Force to a term that will expire December 31, 2026.
Thank you. Questions, commissioners? Comment? Okay, how about public comment on this item? Public comment. Hearing none, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the appointment of Christopher Norris for a full first term that will expire December 31st, 2026, to the Lewis and Clark County DUI Task Force.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the appointment of Christopher Norris to Lewis and Clark County DUI Task Force. Further discussion, commissioners? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, thank you. And on the back side, there's more. Mr. Baltz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Next, you have the Planning and Zoning Committee. David Lewis is serving a partial term that expires December 31, 2024. He wishes reappointment to a full first term that will expire December 31, 2026. There were no other applicants. Action staff recommends that the Commissioners consider the applicant for the Planning and Zoning Committee to a term that will expire December 31, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Baltz. Any questions, commissioners? Comments?
Just, I'd like to continue to get the experience that Mr. Lewis has in living in the valley for many, many years. I think he's a good addition on that Planning and Zoning Committee, and served well for this partial term. I think we should go ahead and appoint him for a full term.
Thank you, Commissioner. How about public comment on this item? Any public comment? Any public comment? All right, hearing none, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve David Lewis I would move to appoint David Lewis to a full first term on the Planning and Zoning Committee to a term that expires on December 31st, 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded to appoint Dave Lewis to the Planning and Zoning Committee. Further discussion, commissioners? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much. I think that's the end of your appointment list. I just want to say thank you to Brandi Spangler and Mr. Baltz for making sure that we're up to date on our boards and committees, and we're tracking those. We couldn't function without our volunteers and the people that support, help, participate on all of our boards and committees. Sometimes it's very challenging to find good board members or committee members. And in this case, we have several that are being reappointed, and really appreciate their service on these. So, and those that track it, keep us informed and make sure that we're going strong here. So thank you, Brandi. All right, we're at that time in our meeting where we will take public comment on any item that is under the jurisdiction of the commission, but not on today's agenda. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no public come forward, commissioners, thank you very much for a good meeting. We will stand adjourned.